When you speak with him, give us your insight into his level of frustration with the future of his New York Knicks.
I never ever heard him say anything about, no frustrations, but I just know that Carmelo is a Knick to heart. Like he's like the Spike Lee of that thing. Like he's, when you think of New York, you think of Carmelo Anthony when you think of the Knicks, and I don't think how rough it gets. I mean, I don't know personally how he feels, but I don't see him like even thinking of bailing on that team like that, because he is New York City, and he does a lot for New York City. Just even him and his wife, and just that whole situation. They're like a big
power couple, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it just makes being New York. So I see him. I mean, the best thing you do is get a better team around him. You know what I mean?
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
I knew this was coming.
Right. He set me up, right?
Yep.
Let me tell you something, Jeezy. Let me tell you something.
Talk to me.
I love me some Carmelo Anthony. That's my man.
Right.
But I got to ask you this question. He has not ever played in an NBA Finals. He's over 30 now.
Right.
I know Lala's doing her thing. She's on Power, my favorite show with Amari Hardwick and Fitty and all of them. I love that show, okay? I know what she's doing with herself. She's got a burgeoning career. We know what Carmelo Anthony, we know he loves his money, and he's right to love his money.
Right.
He's big time. But you trying to tell me he a Knick to heart to the point where if the Knicks in the Eastern Conference are tugging back and forth at even being relevant towards making the playoffs, when you've got your future dwindling before your very eyes, because Father Time's going to catch up.
Right.
You trying to tell me just stay with the Knicks no matter what?
I mean, look,
that's his attitude?
If it was, I'm an over-loyal person, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm quite sure he has lots of money, so I would do what, me personally, I would do what came first to heart. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't see him anywhere else. You know what I mean? I don't know where he sees himself, but if I saw him on the Cavaliers, I don't know. You know what I mean? For me, you know what I mean? It's just like even like with Bron when he went back to Cleveland. I know that was a personal decision. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it had a lot to do with money. I think it had a lot to being like, I want to go back and represent this team because they got me to where I was. I got my ring. I'm back now. They was burning my man jerseys. Like, they had to hurt his heart. You know what I mean? So, you look at Carmelo, you kind of see the same thing. Like, if he goes somewhere, like, where would he go to? I mean, but you might know, though.
Yes, he might, but he's not going to tell us either. Jeezy, real fast, we have to go to break. Your album comes out Friday, Church in These Streets. Give me one song to help me get up in the morning when that alarm goes off at 5 or work out too.
It's called Just Win. Just Win.
All right. First one we're going to download for sure. Thank you so much. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Steve.
Got it.
All right.
Great, man.
Beautiful. Appreciate it.
Up next, the second installment of the college football playoff rankings were released last night. You might be surprised by some of the moves. Notre Dame is in, but should they be? We'll react to that on the other side of the break. Grammy-nominated rapper Jeezy, his new album Church in These Streets is out on Friday. We welcome you to the desk. So appreciate you being with us. Thank you.
All good. I appreciate you.
Thank you. So you have continued to evolve as an artist and really use your voice and platform to speak out on political and social issues. So we want to get your thoughts on these Missouri football players who obviously banded together peacefully, protesting, and now their president has resigned, their chancellor stepped down because they, turned a blind eye to a lot of racial discrimination occurring on the campus. What are your thoughts on that and the power of athletes and celebrities in their voices?
I mean, I think they led by a perfect example. They, obviously, football is a big deal there. So for them to band together and even decide to do that, I mean, I think it showed excellent leadership, if you ask me, because that's a big deal, especially for the school. And for him to step down, I mean, it definitely showed that he was a bigger band and he took notice, you know what I mean? Because obviously it was going to cause a problem. You got students and people that are paying for their kids to go to college. You got these racial issues going on, and you got a president that's letting them happen. So at the same, at the same time, for him to step down, I think, that was the right thing to do.
When you think about the football players getting themselves actively involved and them being college students, any thoughts come through your mind about what lessons professional athletes should take from this particular situation, if anything at all?
I recall something happening. Was it the thing that happened with the guy that actually owned the Clippers? And LeBron and all
Donald
them,
Sterling.
Yeah, and LeBron and them, you know, started to step up.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe that was something that even encouraged them to feel that they had that much power. Because sometimes, you know, just as an athlete or entertainer, sometimes you don't actually understand the power that you have until, you know, the situation presents itself. So for them to be college kids, I mean, it's 1,000 other things that they could be thinking about. And for them to band together for that type of cause, I just think, you know, it had to start somewhere. And maybe what LeBron then was about to do, let them know that, you know, this is something that we could do together. You know what I mean? So to me, that was a big move. I'm quite sure, you know, their parents and the school was very proud of him. Not the president, though. He's
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said.
he can't be happy.
Go one level deeper with this.
Okay.
I followed your career closely from Thug Motivation 101 up to
what you know
Political
about that?
Correct.
What you know about
I've
Thugging?
listened to all of it. I like it all. I
Right.
tell you, from my heart, I highly respect your creative genius.
Right.
Sometimes I'm unsure what ultimate message you want to convey through your lyrics to your fans.
Right.
Sometimes you say violence is not the means to the end to
Right.
bring about change.
Right.
And sometimes it comes across to me as by whatever means necessary to bring
Right.
about change.
Right.
Put that in perspective for us.
Okay, well, two things. The first thing is, if you ever hear me talking about anything that has anything to do with any violence, it's more of a defensive position. You know,
Okay,
you're good with
I got
sports,
it.
so you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not offensive. It's not me saying, hey, look, you know, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to do this to this person. It's saying no different than an officer or soldier or anybody that's at war. It's like, I got to protect myself.
Okay.
I got to protect my loved ones. I got to protect my family. And I'm willing to do so because I was raised to be a man. You know what I'm saying? So that's one take. And as far as the message, you know, you got to evolve. Thug motivation, believe me, I was really thugging.
I got
You know what I'm
it.
saying?
I got it. It comes across,
There was some
man.
thugging going on.
Yeah.
But that thugging, you know, was my past, and that's the only thing that I had that I could actually pull from and tell, you know, people what was really going on. You know what I'm saying? And when I learned that was when I used to write this young lady poems in school that I was trying to talk to, and I could never get her to go on a date, but my words changed the situation.
There you go.
So as I got into music, I started seeing my words change people's lives, and that's what made me, you know, just kind of go harder. But that was one step of it. But so if you go from thug motivation all the way to church in these streets, that's the evolution of Jeezy, and I'm gonna continue to evolve. So, you know, when you're a leader, you have to lead. You know what I mean? So I can only tell you what I know. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know a lot about sports. I don't know a lot about fixing cars or building houses, but I can tell you about life because I actually had a chance to live it.
You have.
So when you hear that, that's what you.
I like that.
Yeah.
What's the message in church in these streets? Sorry, Stephen A.
I mean, church in these streets was basically, you know, my grandmother raised me to be, you know, Baptist, you know, go to church, Sunday school, had the Easter speech, everything. But that's the only thing that really kept me balanced. You know what I mean? As a human being, as a man, as a person. You know what I mean? As a father. And you know, I just think sometimes we kind of forget that. So, you know, when you go to church and it sounds like the preacher is talking to you, maybe he is. And it's like when you come to my shows and I'm talking and you see the expression on these people's face, it's not just a rap concert. It's not, they're not here to be entertained. They're not here for the hieroglyphics or anything. They're here to hear how you feel about certain situations. And then when you tell them that, you know, you can walk off the stage and have somebody say, hey, man, you changed my life. So to me, it's like a small church. You know, I know it's kind of crazy to say that, but it's what it really is. And when you're sitting there and you're watching these people and, you know, you say certain things and they light up, it's no different than sitting in, you know, church in the back row and saying he's talking about me today.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So that's my take on it.
You brought up about how when, you know, Thug Nation came out, you was talking about how you were thugging, you were really motivation. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You was talking about how, you know, you had to be that way. What I'm wondering about is sometimes I see a lot of cats out there who are trying to be something that they're not.
Right.
They're trying to act like it's something that they had to do when in fact they didn't.
Right.
I want to know, as somebody in this game, do you see a lot of that? Do you see a lot of wannabes, a lot of perpetrators, a lot of individuals that are using folks like yourself and others who had to do what you had to do as an excuse to justify what they're doing when they didn't have to do it?
Absolutely. And you got to understand.
What do you say to them?
Well, to me, it's real life, but when it comes becomes a business and it becomes lucrative and you're able to make money by emulating what somebody else has been through, people jump on that. It's no different from, you know, you just seen a Straight Outta Compton movie that just came out. You know what I mean? That was about a lifestyle. You know, Dr. Dre and all those guys really went through that, but somebody thought that it could be valuable if they put it in a movie form. So somebody got actually paid off of whatever they went through. You know, Eazy's no longer here and all those things. But I just think, you know, with this culture, when people see a chance to make money, they go at it. But I have no problem with that personally because I feel like if they're in the studio and they're on the road and they're making records, that's less people that are getting killed in the neighborhoods and being robbed or whatever, because now you're creating these ways for these young entrepreneurs to make these millions of dollars and they're actually getting employees and, you know, taking care of people that are around them and giving them jobs and situations. So it's like they're turning into small Fortune 500 companies and you really can't knock it. You know, I just stay in my lane and do what I do, but at this point, you know, it's business. You know what I mean?
So you have achieved a powerful platform, not only in the black community, but for kids everywhere.
Right.
How much responsibility do you feel? How much does that scare you? Do you sometimes wake up and say, hey, I'm just a guy, you know, I'm just me, you know? I
was talking to somebody about that the other day. I was like, you know, the difference between Kurt Cobain and Tupac is Tupac died believing and still fighting for it, and Kurt Cobain got to the point he was like, man, I can't take this anymore. You know what I mean? And sometimes I get caught in a, you know, rock in a hard place because it's like, am I a good guy? Yes, when it comes to me and my family and my loved ones, and will I do some crazy things that sometimes, of course, that's where I came from, but now my circle is different. You know what I mean? I talk to politicians and mayors and staples in the community, but I can still go back and hang out with my friends when I feel like it. So it's like I'm kind of like caught trying to balance it, and I'm a Libra, so that's like even crazier. So it's like, you know, I find myself sometimes like, okay, what are you doing? And I think that's what makes me me and keeps me going and keeps me like solid and humble, is because I can see both sides, and I'm like, you know, it's like you going from being the people's champ to the city's hero. So it's good to be the people's champ. You could be the villain or anything. When you start being the city's hero, you kind of got to watch, you know, what you do, because it's like, you know, you can do one bad thing and then everybody's like, oh man, see, he's never going to change. So it's just that, but that's what you hear in the music though. You hear somebody that wants to change and wants to do better, but at the same time you have certain things pulling and tugging on you, and you're like, okay, well, I can't do that today. I'll try to, you know, do this, but you know, it's not easy. If that's
what's the hardest thing to shake? What's the hardest thing to shake?
Bad habits. You know, not being as open as changed as you should be. You know, I'm a businessman now, so it's different. I have real business things going on. I have tequilas and I have companies and different stuff. So it's just like what I do in my music career actually affects that as well. And it wasn't like that at first. So now that's kind of hard to shake, because it's like now I got to make sure I'm on my A game, because everything could collapse now just by me speaking how I feel about certain things. You know how it go. You say the wrong lyric and then, you know, everybody's on you and all these
you know I know.
Right. You feel me?
Clickbait over there. Right. Yeah.
So it's just a little risky, but the thing about it, I always learn to say, man, to myself, it's just like, stay true to you, man. It's like, you can't fail that way, you know what I mean? If you can get up and look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and know you're doing all you got to do to be better and to evolve and to continue to be productive, that's all you really can do, because you know nobody's perfect. And when you get in that, when you're trying to be perfect, you're already losing.
Yeah. So was part of your evolution, your maturity, your new wisdom, dropping the young from Jeezy? Was that part of it?
Absolutely. By the way, that saved you some more years and money too, just so you know.
I got it.
You're right. You're right. So we'll put young. You feel me? No, it's just something I decided to do. When I jumped off the porch and I started doing my thing, that was it. You know, young this, young that, Lil Wayne, this, and it was like rapper stuff. And then as I started evolving to, you know, just a man and just started seeing things, that was just a piece of that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna drop this, and you know, the next piece would be, you know, to drop the Jeezy at some point and be who I am. Okay. You know what I mean? and that's just how this game works. You know what I mean?
The next step of the evolution. But how aware and grounded you are is so impressive. And I know you talked about connecting to the two different audiences. It's just impressive that you are connecting to both. I know it can be stressful, but you're reaching all those
it's like
voices.
Trying to be a Falcons fan and a Cowboys fan at the same time.
Oh, we're going to get into that next. Save that thought. More with Jeezy after the break. We're going to talk a little sports when we come back. Stay here. This is First Take.